that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the, what is this, Tom?
452.
It's 452. It's the 452nd edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the astonishing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
Tom was down in Florida last week.
Yeah.
Any good weather down there?
No.
I was going to see if you could have brought any back. Anyway.
Well, it rained a couple of days.
Yeah, well, it rained here a couple of days too. These news items that we're going to be talking about this week are all from my blog, geoharvey.com. You can go there and see it. We'll try to keep everybody appraised of the dates of these things that we're reading, and you can go to the blog and read them by clicking on that date on the calendar. We're starting on December 30th, and before I go, and I should also mention, if you look down on the screen that you're on, if you're watching on a computer, there should be a file you can click on to get a download of the file that Tom and I use to set this up, or you can go to the website that we use to set it up through a link. And I have to mention that we are back in the let's get some money mode. So we're looking for contributors to BCTV. Okay. So if you'd like to help out, keep Energy Week alive, you can donate to BCTV and by going to the BCTV website, brattleboro.tv.org, and scroll down, and there's a place there where you can click on a link that says support local programming.
We don't need a heck of a lot of money.
No, we don't need a lot of money. It's actually a pittance when you consider the cost of keeping a place like this going. And if I figure it's like 1%, 2% of what's needed to keep the show going.
Well, fortunately, we're sort of subsidized.
We are a little bit, but we have some money left over from last year. That's a big help.
As I say, Flatbush.
We need a couple $100. So anybody who wants to donate, please, when you donate, leave a note saying that your donation is for the support of Energy Week. And I guess that's it for me. You always say something at this point.
I guess what I'm saying is some of these things are well worth reading.
Some of them are, absolutely.
We just give a quick summary of them, and some of them are very in-depth and well worth reading, and I'll try and call that to your attention.
Yeah.
It's easy enough to click on these things, and like I say, some of them are mandatory.
Yeah. We do not include many stories that are not worth reading. Okay, we're going to start on Thursday.
Hi there. Goodbye there.
We're going to start on Thursday, December 30th,
with an item coming up
item
here.
From CNN. We have a picture of the harbor at Kodiak, Alaska. Brattleboro doesn't
What's
have
that
a
big
harbor
giant submarine doing there?
Is that a submarine? No, it's not a submarine. That's an island.
It's an island. Island shaped like a submarine.
Island shaped like a submarine. It's called Submarine Island.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, it was named in 1792 by a man who was about to invent the submarine. He was inspired by the shape of the island. Oh man, can I spin a yarn. Go ahead.
Well, it looks like the city of Kodiak is kind of small.
Well, I don't think you've got the whole city there.
Well, it's all jammed in a coastline there. There's nothing.
It's kind of jammed in, but I think the foreground is covering some of it. This is from CNN. What do you have for a title, Tom?
Somewhere along here, I got a title.
Yes, you do.
67-degree F day in Kodiak, Alaska, sets a new statewide temperature record.
Yep. On Sunday, Kodiak, Alaska, that is the Sunday preceding the 30th of December. The Kodiak tide gauge station recorded an amazing 67 degrees, a new statewide temperature record for December. The Kodiak airport recorded 65, breaking the record for the month by 9 degrees Fahrenheit. One climatologist said, "I would not have thought such a thing possible."
Well, I got a couple of remarks. 65 degrees in Alaska, December. That's unreal.
It is.
The old record was 44 degrees, which was set in 1990.
Oh, man.
Okay. And the sun, this is what makes it particularly unreal. The sun is only above the horizon for about 6 hours a day.
At Kodiak.
At Kodiak,
Yeah.
yep. The extreme warmth, and this is explaining what's going on, is due to a strong area of high pressure in the northern Pacific. The high pressure causes a clockwise flow around it, which draws up warmer, more tropical air from the western Pacific. So temperatures in the Arctic have been rising about twice as fast as the rest of the planet. We've mentioned that on the show.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Warmer air brings wetter air,
Yes.
okay, as the atmosphere is capable of holding more water vapor. So in addition to being warm, Fairbanks has seen its wettest December ever.
Wow. Okay.
So let's stay in Brattleboro. Let's stay away from Fairbanks. Another interesting
you know,
picture
my
up
brother
there.
went to Alaska and he took pictures, and it was just amazingly beautiful.
I
Astonishingly
bet it is.
beautiful.
Well, it's a big place.
Well, it
It's
is. Where
gotta-
he was, it was beautiful. I imagine that's
I'm
parts
sure
of
there's
it that-
places in Alaska that will suit your fancy no matter what it is you want.
Except people who want warm places and lots of. Yeah. Well, okay. So
Well,
here
got
we have
another
an item from Clean
got another
Technica.
funny picture here.
We have a picture of.
What is that?
Well, it's Asparagopsis.
Say that again.
Asparagopsis.
I had that for supper last night.
No, that was asparagus. Go ahead.
Feeding this seaweed to cows can eliminate their methane emissions. And by the way, the methane emissions are not coming from where you think they are.
Well, cows burp incredibly. They just burp and burp and burp. And if a fraternity house guy who was in a burping contest, you know, for drinking beer and burping, could burp like these guys do as ordinary, they'd
win
win
hands
every
down.
time. Yeah, absolutely. This is from Clean Technica, and you read the title, didn't you?
Feeding this seaweed to I'll read it again.
Okay, do it.
Feeding this seaweed to cows can eliminate their methane emissions.
In a single year, a cow can emit as much greenhouse gases as a small car.
It's got to be a small cow, though.
Well, I don't know. The greenhouse gases that are serious that come from cows are
And they're
the
burping.
methane when they're burping, and that's far worse than carbon dioxide. So they're measuring the effect of greenhouse gases, and it's a short-term effect because the methane doesn't last in the atmosphere as long as carbon dioxide. But the amount can be reduced by adding this seaweed.
There we go.
There's
There's
the
a picture of it.
to the diet. Robert Kinley, chief scientist at Future Feed, the name of a company, found that red algae, Asparagopsis, can practically eliminate methane emissions from livestock.
That's interesting.
It
Well, the
sure is.
reason why the cows are so gassy
Yeah.
is due to digesting roughage.
Yes.
This requires extra digestion, which in turn causes cows to burp more.
Well,
And they
that's
also have 7 stomachs.
4.
There's only 4?
There's only 4. But you know, that's the business of chewing the cud. The cow eats the grass, and then it ferments a little bit in the cow's first stomach, and then it brings it up and chews it.
And then it puts it into its second stomach.
Puts it in the second stomach, and I don't know what the third and fourth stomachs are for, but the cows really seem to like chewing the cud. They just enjoy that.
I think so. It's like chewing gum.
Maybe, but they just seem to, get something out of that.
Well, from the takeaway or from the article, natural vitamins and minerals in seaweed can increase milk production.
Ah, good for them.
In addition, Asparagopsis, a type of red seaweed, which we're looking at, I'm going to put it up there again. There it is.
My beard is white and it's not seaweed. Go ahead.
It doesn't look red to me.
No,
but
it doesn't look red.
it can practically eliminate methane emissions.
Yeah.
Only 0.2%
0.2%
of daily rations, only a little bit, can reduce greenhouse gases by up to 40%.
Yeah.
This is less than we use salt.
Yes. Yeah, okay. All right,
Okay, we move
our
along.
next item here is a
picture
picture of the wild coast of South Africa, which is
That's an interesting picture. It looks like a nice beach.
Yeah, it's on the southeast of South Africa. This is from Clean Tech.
Well, that happens to be called Coffee Bay.
That's right. It is.
And it's like coffee that you drink.
Yeah.
The South African court halts Shell's oil exploration in whale breeding grounds.
A South African court has stopped Shell's seismic testing for oil and gas along the nation's eastern coastline, the BBC has reported, adding that this is pending a final ruling. So this isn't the filing; it is an initial filing.
It's pending.
It's pending. Now This News, that is the name of an organization, has shared that the wild coast is also an area where whales breed. So what was happening here was that Shell was doing seismic testing looking for oil and gas.
Oil, right.
In exactly the area. So they're putting, explosives into the water.
I'm going to explain that.
Okay, you explain it. Go ahead.
Seismic surveys consist of firing incredibly loud shock waves towards the seabed.
Yeah.
Okay, the sound that reflects shows whether or not there's oil locked in a rock under the sea. Okay, so it makes sense for what they're doing.
If you want oil.
If you want oil. But environmentalists are worried that Shell could cause harm to marine life. Now, why would they think a thing like that? South Africa's energy minister claims that they want to deprive Africa of energy resources. Well, that makes sense.
They want to deprive Africa of what?
Energy resources.
Energy resources.
Scientists reported that they were able. This is interesting because they've been blowing this very loud noise to find out what they want to find out. Now, the scientists have found that the songs of whales can be used to accurately map what was beneath the seafloor.
So why
they don't have to make these loud noises.
They could just depend on the whales to do it.
A network of ocean bottom seismometers picked up the sound waves from the songs of whales, and their echoes showed that the sound waves had passed through layers of sediment in the underlying rocks. That's exactly what they're looking for. The waves reveal structural details of the crust beneath where the whales had been singing as they swam. I don't want to make a song, singing as you swim.
Yeah, I think it should be.
The new data suggested that whale song can be effective tools to study the seafloor without impacting the marine environment negatively as air guns blasted from ships do.
Oh,
Why
man.
did I think of that?
I don't know. Okay, our next item, we're up to Friday, December 31st.
Yeah, who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
This is from Clean
That's Meryl
Technica.
Streep.
It is.
It is that.
Yeah.
She's in a trailer having to do with this article.
So what's the title of the article?
Our completely impartial, unbiased review of the movie Don't Look Up.
Well, this is not exactly unbiased, but that's okay. Don't Look Up is a satirical movie that skewers climate deniers. The movie is simplistic in the extreme. Some will love it, some will hate it. But one NASA scientist said it is, quote, the most accurate film about society's terrifying non-response to climate breakdown I've seen, end quote.
Well, it's a very pessimistic movie when you look at it. And I've seen the movie. I saw the movie before I read this.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems that the movie says there's an asteroid going to hit the Earth.
Yeah.
99% certainty that it's going to hit it on next Thursday.
Yes.
And nobody wants to believe it. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to do anything about it.
What could they do about it if it was that close?
Well, say their prayers. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
So the majority, and this is a couple of takeaways. The majority of Republicans in Congress support that climate change is a hoax idea. Majority is one more than half. Okay, so they don't want to believe that there is climate change. There is this is interesting. There is a connection between those who refuse to get vaccinated and those who deny that global overheating is happening.
Well,
They read the same newspaper.
surprise, surprise.
World leaders underestimate that ecological breakdown will be rapid, serious, and permanent. And we've talked about that on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Climate destruction unfolds over decades, which is lightning fast as far as the planet is concerned, but glacially slow as far as the news cycle is concerned.
Okay.
And humanity needs to highlight the absurdities that arise from collectively knowing what's coming while collectively failing to act.
Yes.
Okay, humanity needs to confront the fossil fuel industry head on.
Yes.
And this is the final takeaway. We have about 8 years. This is us. This isn't the movie. 8 years before the Earth tips into an irreversible warming trend that will threaten the very existence of the majority of humans and most other life on Earth.
Well, honestly, Tom, I think we're already in an irreversible warming trend.
We argue about, we're definitely in a warming trend.
We're in
The
a
question
warming
is,
trend,
is
but
it
I mean,
irreversible
I
or
think
not?
we've. I shouldn't have said irreversible.
Well, we might be.
We might be. It isn't something that cuts off in 8 years. The quicker we do something about it, the better off we are. Let me put
Let's
it that
take a
way.
quick look at Meryl again.
Meryl?
She's up there.
Yep.
Well, let's move on here.
Okay,
Got
we have a new
coming
picture,
up.
and it's there. And this is from the
Picture of a
BBC.
wildfire.
Yep.
Is that a wildfire?
That's a wildfire.
I guess it's a wildfire.
But it's not in, I don't know where it is. I don't think it's in Colorado. But what have you got for a
Well, the article, it might be about Colorado wildfires, or it is about.
the article is about Colorado wildfires, but I got that picture from Unsplash.
You
and
stole that picture.
I
somewhere.
stole it. I had
Well,
permission to steal it.
it says Colorado wildfires, tens of thousands evacuated as the blazes spread.
Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated and hundreds of homes have been destroyed. As wildfires spread through Colorado, the fast-moving fires are burning in Boulder County, north of Denver, and officials say deaths and injuries are likely as the blazes spread further.
Well, there's a map of Boulder County at this link.
Yeah.
And man, this fire's all over the place.
There are fires all over. This was spread by winds of over 100 miles an hour.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, and it was put
That's
out.
equal to a Category 3 hurricane.
Yeah,
by the way.
and it was put out when the weather changed and it started to snow.
The latest blazes are bursting. This was written a week ago.
Yeah.
In suburban parts of the state, rather than rural ones.
Yes,
Okay, and are coming relatively late in the season.
relatively.
Yeah. Now this is interesting. Some 600 homes were lost, as well as a shopping complex and a hotel. About 6,000 acres were burned. Now, that's a lot of land. That's
Yep,
a lot of
it
land.
is. It's sad. Yep, that's beautiful countryside. I used to live in Denver.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did.
They say it's a nice town.
Yeah, well, we moved out 70 years ago, so it was a little different in those days.
I guess it was.
Okay, our next item comes from Clean Technica.
Well, we got a picture of a funny building there.
Yeah, well, I think that's the Capitol building.
That's what it says, Capitol Building.
Yeah.
Implementing the clean energy investments in a bipartisan infrastructure law.
Those following U.S. congressional climate policy in the U.S. are seeing 2021 end after setbacks to the Build Back Better Act in its current form, as Senate Democrats have been unable to find sufficient votes for passage. but its provisions are necessary for climate policy.
This is a long article. It's worth reading if you got the time, because
Yeah.
it is long. In November, President Biden signed a $1.2 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Okay? The Build Back Better Act supplements this. Okay, including over $500 billion, that ain't hay, in climate and clean energy provisions that are necessary for the U.S. to meet its climate zone goals. It must pass to enable this clean energy transition. So they're playing games down there in Washington. This legislation focuses on transportation, water, and broadband infrastructure.
Yes.
It also contains important energy provisions that are a down payment during building the clean grid of the future, which is happening as we speak.
Right.
There's a table here, it's a good table. 5 areas of grid and clean energy investments in a bipartisan infrastructure law. You got time, take a look at that one.
Okay.
Meanwhile, we're moving along to Sunday. Saturday, January 1st, and there's a picture there that should be familiar to all of us.
Vermont Yankee in its heyday, when it was actually running.
Well, you can see by the picture off on the left, there's sort of clouds rising. That's coming from the cooling towers.
Yes.
So that shows this thing is on.
This thing is on here.
Picture.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, this is from WAMC,
which stands for Albany Medical Center, but it's an on-air radio station. It's a good radio station.
All right.
I used to live down that way.
Yeah.
Vermont Yankee Decommissioning Committee is drafting an advisory opinion on nuclear waste policy. They're up with a rock against a hard place.
Yeah,
they don't know what to do with it, how to transport it, and they can't leave it there forever.
You know, transplanting nuclear waste is one of my, just the idea. They talk about moving this stuff to Yucca Mountain. Well, how are you going to get it there?
Hitchhike?
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize when nuclear rods are put into a reactor for the first time, before they go in, they are not terribly radioactive.
Well, no.
You know, I mean,
they get radioactive after they get used.
They get radioactive as they get used. They get more and more radioactive. So you can stand near one of these things.
You can light a cigarette with them.
You can stand near one of these things before it gets used, before the energy is extracted. And it's relatively safe.
Yeah.
If you stand near one after it comes out, you got to get out of there within seconds, because otherwise you're going to die soon.
That's true.
It's really,
that's not hyperbole.
How do you transport 80,000 tons of this stuff?
Well, I'm trying to figure that one out.
Should they go by railroad?
Well, they can't go by highway.
How is it going to be done?
The best way is by water, if that's possible.
Oh man, how is it possible to take
I don't
by
know where
water? You
Yucca
go
Mountain
down the
is.
Connecticut River.
Yeah.
And then you'd go to sea.
Then you go to sea, go around Cape of Horn, because you probably can't go through the canal.
Oh man, this is a nightmare. It's a nightmare they should have anticipated too.
They probably did and decided not to.
They probably did. Let me read what this says. The DOE is taking suggestions on how to site facilities for temporary consolidated storage of spent nuclear fuel based on local consent. A Vermont Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Committee panel is drafting an advisory opinion. By the way, Lissa Weinman is I think she's the co-chair of that committee, if you know her.
I don't know her. No.
I know her. She's a remarkable woman. Very, very bright. I think we should move on, Tom.
Well, there's a couple of quick things I wanted to say. Vermont Yankee shut down in December 2014.
Right.
Okay. All of the spent nuclear fuel was placed into dry casks.
Yes.
Which have been temporarily stored on site. And decommissioning is expected to be completed by 2030. And decommissioning includes getting those casks out of there. And they're not able to do it so far. And the Department of Energy is taking suggestions on how to site, this is a quote, site federal facilities for the temporary consolidated storage of nuclear fuel. But they're prohibited from doing that because there's a Nuclear Waste Policy Act that requires that a permanent repository be licensed before an interim storage facility be named or started. So they're up against a rock, against a hard place here. They don't really know what they're going to do.
Our next item is from Clean Technica.
Look at an interesting picture here.
We have a picture of a Tesla Model Y.
Well, it's interesting if you notice there's no grill on that car.
Although sometimes electric vehicles have grills.
Well,
so they can cool their battery.
Well, that's what that scoop is on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's for cooling the battery, but it's different from a grill.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a New York plate on it.
It is, which has been whited out.
It's been whited out. That's a Tesla Model Y.
Yeah. Do you have a title for the article?
I do. The top electric vehicles in the world during record sales month.
Global plug-in vehicle registrations were up 72% in November 2021.
Plug-ins.
Huh?
This is plug-ins.
Yeah, plug-ins, which means plug-in hybrids and all battery vehicles, both.
Yep.
But it doesn't include non-plug-in hybrids.
Correct. That's why they call them plug-ins. It's very clever.
That's right. It is very clever. There were 721,000 registrations, and which is an 11.5% of the overall auto market, establishing a new global record for plug-in electric vehicles. Internal combustion vehicles may already be past their peak.
I think they are.
I think it's very clear. They're way off in Europe, in China. There's a huge decline in cars, and the people who wrote this article seem to think that that same decline, we will be in the same decline this year.
This year, huh?
This year, 2020.
Well, it's an interesting article. There's lots of numbers and tables if you like numbers and tables.
Love numbers and tables.
The plug-in vehicle market could reach 6.5 million units this year.
Yes.
That's a lot of cars.
It's a lot of cars.
Already, 22% of the overall global market has some form of electrification.
Yes.
But the trend is rise and rise of the Chinese brands, which we've never even heard of.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I thought BYD was the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
They're not, no.
You know, it's like, and the people that
but
are the biggest...
But there's so many Chinese that they're not even exporting these vehicles. They're using them themselves.
Yeah, they are. But it also, these electric vehicles are so simple compared to internal combustion vehicles. All they have to do is come up with a car that meets Chinese road standards, and they can release it. And they're doing that. So you've got, you know,
there's 20
two guys with a
20
garage.
Chinese vehicle manufacturers.
Yeah, this is like you know, two guys with a garage decide they're going to make cars, and that's what they do.
It's almost that simple.
Almost. Okay, we should go on.
We've got another picture here.
We
some
have
funny
a picture of
looking
some
things
funny
here.
looking things, and this is from
look at that
Electrek.
Oh, there they are. Yeah,
There they are.
Weird looking things, huh?
Aren't they?
They're called offshore wind turbines. How about that?
And if you turned them upside down, they'd be offshore water turbines.
They would, yeah.
Okay.
Well, according to this article, Scotland missed 100% clean electricity combustion in 2020 by only 1.4%.
In 2011, Scotland set a target for reaching 100% clean electricity consumption in 2020. And last year, the country almost reached that target. Of gross electricity consumption, 98.6% came from renewables, according to...
That's interesting.
Yeah, the Scottish government's December energy statement.
There's a lot of tables in this article. Again, if you like tables.
Yeah.
Scotland is working to achieve net zero by 2045, which is an ambitious climate target. One of the most ambitious. 61% of all electricity generated, this is the generated part, in Scotland in 2020 was from clean energy sources. Okay, so more than half of the electricity generated in Scotland was coming mostly from wind.
Yeah. Okay, we have an item here. This is Sunday, January 2nd.
There's a nice picture here.
We have an item
Kinda
from
scary
the
picture,
Guardian.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is kind of scary.
That's
And
real. I mean, that's happening now.
That's
as we
happening.
speak.
It's just going on, and there's a lot of pictures with this article that have houses teetering on the edge of things like that. I didn't.
Well, this article has a lot of such pictures, and it's kind of scary.
It is.
That happens to be Happisburg.
Yeah, I
Which
didn't
is-
include any of those pictures because they're all copyrighted.
Oh,
and
are they, huh?
we can use them because we're not for profit. But unfortunately,
Someone can't use them that they get from
my
us.
blog is copied in other places.
Yeah.
And I don't want to labor people who are putting up it or parts of it with having to check the photographs and remove the ones that are copyrighted. So I go out and find, and this is a picture that shows exactly what's happening.
Well, there's several pictures like this in the article.
Yeah,
And they're scary.
with houses
With
kind
houses
of
dangling from
dangling.
the top.
Yeah.
And
What do you have for the title?
sands of time are slipping away for England's crumbling coasts amid the climate crisis.
Norfolk is a real-time lesson in how weather and sea can drastically alter a landscape. One man said, quote, "You hear about erosion, but you don't know what that means, what it involves until you witness it. It's a shock to see the physical transformation." And that is a cliff that didn't used to be a cliff.
And that's what these pictures are all about. They're
That's
really
it, yeah.
quite scary.
Yep.
Well, Norfolk is a bulge in eastern England is in a bulge in eastern England called East Anglia.
Yeah.
And that's where most of these pictures are coming from.
Yeah.
But it's happening all over England.
It's happening, yeah. Okay.
Well, as it says here, erosion is taking place all along the eastern coast of England, but particularly in East Anglia.
Yes.
The bulbous protrusion jutting into the North Sea.
There's something to
Sort
remember
of looks like
here.
a nose.
Yeah, this is an area where a lot of England in that area was underwater only a couple thousand years ago. And yeah, okay, we should go on.
Well, quick takeaway from the article.
Yeah.
Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica, which is
yeah.
an ice shelf the size of Great Britain, is in danger of collapse. I think we've mentioned that on the
we
show.
have mentioned it.
It's leading, if it collapses, it could lead to a rise in sea levels of nearly 2 feet.
Yeah, and this,
Wow.
what you're seeing here is happening because of a rise in sea levels of less than an inch.
Yeah.
So, wow, as you said. We have to keep going, Tom.
Well, we got another picture coming
We have a
up here.
picture here of an airplane in a Danish airport.
I don't think those are electric engines, though.
No, they're not. But it gives you an idea of the size of the aircraft that we're talking about here. This
Yeah,
is
it's
from the
a
BBC.
small local aircraft. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
certain places, even in the U.S. and on the West Coast, they use these things just to
All
get
the
around.
time. Yeah,
all the
just
time.
to get around.
Denmark to make domestic flights fossil-free by 2030.
Yep.
Well,
Denmark's
Denmark
good.
isn't very big. They can do that.
Well, Norway is doing the same sort of thing. Denmark's government announced a goal to make domestic flights fossil fuel free by 2030. In her New Year's address, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said she wants to quote, make flying green, end quote. However, she acknowledged the solutions to reach her target were not yet in place.
Well, Denmark is aiming for a 70% cut in overall carbon emissions by 2030. Sweden has similar plans.
Yes.
And as you just mentioned, so does Norway.
Yes.
Okay. Sweden wants to make domestic flights fossil-free by 2030 as well. It's also hoping to make international flights green by 2045.
Yes.
That's a little bit harder to do. Now, Airbus is helping. They plan to develop hydrogen-fueled planes that could be operational by 2035.
Right.
Okay. Meanwhile, France is moving to ban domestic flights where the same journey could be made by train in under 2.5 hours. So if you can take the train, we ain't going to give you a plane, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, if you think about it, I used to work in Winchester, live in Winchester, New Hampshire, which is just across the river from Brattleboro.
Yep.
And I worked in Washington, D.C. And what I would do is I'd take a train down, stay down there for a month, and then come back for a weekend. Every month I was back for one weekend.
That's a long trip by train.
Yeah, it is. It's a long trip by train. I'd get on the train in Brattleboro. I'd be down there 9:30 or what at night, so it'd be 10 hours basically is what it is.
Well, the good thing about taking a train that long is you can walk around the train.
Not just that, Tom.
Car.
If I had gone by plane, my son would have had to drive me to some airport that would be over an hour away.
Yep. There you go.
And so 2 hours of his time taking for me to go down, 2 hours for me to come back, where locally he could just pop over to the station. And then I'd have to be in the airport for a couple of hours. And then at the other end, I'd have to get onto, you know, a local transportation that was endless. It was crazy. By going by plane, I would have saved about 2 hours.
Maybe.
Maybe, absolutely.
If you're gonna go to hell, you got to change planes in Atlanta.
Oh man. Okay, we have an item here from
picture up here with a garbage truck.
It is a garbage truck.
But it's a unique garbage truck.
Well, actually, there's more than one, so it's not unique. But go ahead, Tom.
It's a Mack Trucks electric garbage truck.
Yes. What do you have for a title?
New York adopts the ACT rule, bringing clean trucks to the state.
New York is closing out 2021 with a big climate and clear air win, becoming the 5th state in the country to adopt the Advanced Clean Trucks Rule, ACT.
That's what ACT stands for. Adoption
of the ACT rule ensures that over $19 billion in net societal benefits will come to New Yorkers through 2050.
Well, the ACT rule requires truck manufacturers to sell an increasing number of zero-emission vehicles.
Right.
Zero emissions.
Zero emission.
Additional complementary actions are needed to target zero-emission vehicle deployment and benefits to communities suffering a disproportionate share of transportation pollution.
Right.
Often communities of color and low income.
Right. Okay, our next item
January 3rd.
Is from,
look at that.
This is from Clean Technica. That is not a hamburger.
No, that's not a hamburger. That's an impossible burger.
That's right.
Some people call it a Whataburger.
A what burger?
Whata.
Whata?
Whataburger, yeah. W-A-T-T-A.
Oh, okay. What do you have for title?
Prediction for 2022. Plant-based foods will surge. Well, I wouldn't bet against that.
I wouldn't bet for it either. This is something I wouldn't bet on. A whole new range of consumers has discovered plant-based items, and selections can be appealing. So let's make a prediction for 2022. Plant-based foods will not only transcend their current path, leading to mainstream acceptance, they'll become preferred for a lot of reasons.
Well, that looks like real meat, but it's not.
That's right. And I doubt very much that it tastes like real meat. And,
well, production of animal-based proteins has many limitations.
Right.
Environmental degradation, animal welfare, cultural considerations, health constraints. People are starting to assess the benefits and damages of plant-based eating for human health and the environment.
Yes.
So the replacement for meat is fast becoming a norm. I don't know how fast it is, but it is happening.
It's happening. Okay, we have to move on, and we have an item here from the local Spain.
From the local, Oh, the local, whatever the local Spain
It's
is.
the name of a publication.
Spain. Well, first of all, that's a central nuclear.
Yes.
Called Vandellos 2.
Yeah.
And looks like it's in a nice location.
It would, yeah. What do you have for a title?
Spain rejects the EU's green label for nuclear and natural gas energy.
This is going to require a little bit of an explanation.
I think so.
The Spanish government has rejected the EC's plans, European Commission's plans, to include nuclear energy and natural gas in the EU's classification table of green energies.
Well, it's an argument. Are they green or are they not?
Yeah, are they not? Spain's Minister for Ecological Transition, Teresa Ribera, says the plan is, quote, a step backwards, end quote. Now, the European Commission has wanted to label nuclear and natural gas as green, which is, in fact, I think, a big step backwards. And
well, that's what it says. That's what Teresa Ribera says.
Yeah, the French want this, the Belgians want it, but Germany and Austria have said that they are not going to accept it, and if it is passed, they will go to court to stop it in the European courts. Spain is joining them.
Well, it's a matter of defining green.
Yeah, but you can't make natural gas green.
No.
And I'm sorry, the idea of capturing the carbon,
call it unnatural gas.
This carbon capture thing is a myth.
It's a joke.
It really is.
It's a boondoggle, I think.
It's a boondoggle. Yeah, it's a pork barrel. It's whatever you want to call it, but it's not something that can be. It's not something that could be called sustainable. I don't think.
I don't think it is.
All right, if you don't mind, I'm going to keep going here on to the next item. We are behind.
Well, we've got a picture here.
We have a picture of the Tesla Gigafactory 1, and the article is from Clean Technica.
But if you look at that picture there, you see the parking lot, you see the size of the cars.
Yeah,
it gives you some idea of the size of the factory.
It sure does.
It is big.
It is big.
Tesla delivered over 300,000 EVs in a fourth quarter in 2021.
That's 1 quarter.
That's 1 quarter, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of EVs. Almost 1 million in 2021.
Tesla announced another record quarter for vehicle deliveries. For a record-breaking year in Q4 of 2021, Tesla delivered 308,000 cars, putting total deliveries for 2021 at 936,000. And its 2 new gigafactories, one in Berlin and one in Austin, Texas, are not even open.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's tables here, and they're showing a breakdown of the total vehicles delivered and produced by model in 2021. And the tables show that Tesla's made a lot of progress in the last year.
Yeah.
And there's a million Model 3 sales, which is a plug-in hybrid. Okay? Model 3, this is interesting, is the top-selling electrical car in the world by a considerable margin.
Yes.
Okay? It's safe to assume that Tesla will sell over 1 million cars in 2022.
Yeah. Okay,
we're moving along.
We're up to Tuesday, January 4th, and we have a picture.
A funny picture here
of a tiny house.
A tiny house.
And the article is from the BBC.
Why? The tiny house is perfect for now.
The tiny house movement found its moment. The idea that having less space and stuff can create more room in our lives for more important things, and it has appeal. The roots of the tiny house movement can be traced to Henry David Thoreau,
who basically lived in a tiny house.
Yeah, and he also lived just across the river in Keene.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. And its fans champion the dwelling's green credentials.
Okay. There's a lot of pictures in this article.
Yes, there are.
And by the way, they make tiny houses in Jamaica. Right here.
Jamaica, Vermont. Yeah.
And you want to order a tiny house, they make it up in the factory up there. And then bring it down on a trailer.
Yeah. You can even order a tiny house on its own trailer so that you can
drive it around.
Around.
Absolutely. Well, a tiny house is an architectural and social movement that advocates for downsizing living spaces. Well, that makes sense. I mean, I live in a fairly large apartment, and I rarely ever use the living room.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need all that room.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the tiny house trend is an architectural and social movement that advocates for downsizing living spaces. Now, Elon Musk, the multi-billionaire Tesla chief, rented one in Texas while working on his SpaceX Virginia. And this is a quote from Elon Musk. Feels more homey to live in a small house. Tiny houses require less material to build and are energy considerate. That's an interesting way of putting it.
That
using
house,
around 20 to 30% of the energy of most average homes.
That house that we're seeing in the picture, though, has got big, big glass windows.
The pictures of some of these tiny houses are really interesting. They're pretty nice.
Yeah, they are. But
They're
those
pretty
big
nice
glass windows are going to lose energy unless they've got some way of blocking energy from going through well.
Double glass.
Okay. Clean Technica did this next one. Whoops, is that right? Yes, it is. And this
What
is
a picture there
picture of a wildfire.
What is that, a fire?
It's a fire.
It's a fire.
Yes.
Fire and ice. The puzzling link between western wildfires and the Arctic sea ice. This is interesting.
It's interesting. It's a little bit hard to follow the article, I think.
It is that. It is that.
But, well, let me read the synopsis. A study describes a link between dwindling sea ice and worsening wildfires. As the Arctic continues warming, it can sharpen the contrast between two distantly connected systems, altering the jet stream and exacerbating conditions for a fire-ravaged region.
Well, I'll try to explain it, but I don't know if it makes sense.
Okay, go ahead.
As the sea ice melts from July to October, sunlight warms the increasingly iceless surrounding area.
Yeah.
This ultimately brings heat and fire-favorable conditions to distant places like California, Washington, and Oregon, happening later in autumn and early winter. The researchers describe this relationship as similar to climate patterns like the El Nino, which we've talked about on the show.
We have. They say that what's happening here is that as the Arctic ice melts and more heat is built up in the ocean there and on the land, that disturbs the what do they call that? The vortex, polar vortex. And the disturbed polar vortex will have an effect on the jet stream. And the result is the jet stream is more wavy and moves more, changes position more.
It's wobbling.
It's wobbly. And the result of that is that the weather gets crazier.
Yeah, and we've seen crazier weather happen.
We have indeed.
All over.
Okay.
Arctic sea life is Arctic sea ice is projected to continue declining as the Arctic continues warming. It can sharpen the contrast between these two distantly connected systems. So what's happening is it's warming and drying out the western United States.
Right. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture
and we
of
got
a
a picture
bus.
of a, how about
a
that?
Gillig bus. I had never heard of Gillig before
Well,
this
how do you know
article.
it's a Gillig?
Well, it says so.
Absolutely. Florida Transit Agency buys 60 electric buses.
A Florida transit agency, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority of Pinellas County, recently ordered 60 full electric buses. Pinellas County includes St. Petersburg, so this is
It's
not
right next
trivial.
to Tampa.
Yeah. The 60 electric buses will be delivered over the next 5 years, though 24 of them will be delivered before the end of this year.
Well, it's too big for one manufacturer to deal with. So they're going to be dealing with 4 different manufacturers, which include BYD, who we've talked about on this show, Gillig, which is this guy, Proterra, which we've talked about.
We have.
And New Flyer. I don't know anything about that.
Well, New Flyer is another one in the United
Obviously.
States.
Electric buses will charge both at night
Right.
and via some en route charging stations.
Right.
Okay. This is interesting. Fuel cost savings are expected to total $20,000 a year. That ain't hay.
No, it's not.
On a full charge, the buses are expected to provide about 200 miles of driving range or 14 hours a day of operation.
Wow.
So they're taking care of what they need to do.
Yeah.
And at the moment, PSTA, Pinellas County, has 6 electric buses.
Okay. Our next item, we're up to Wednesday, January 5th,
Let's
and
see
we
if
have
I
a
can move
picture
it
of
down
a
here.
antimatter blue Ford F-150 Lightning. And I want to tell you, Tom, I think these people should be taken to task for advertising something being the blue color of antimatter. Antimatter is not blue.
Not blue. It's interesting because the picture shows a trunk up front, shows a motor, shows a place up front where there's normally a motor.
Yeah.
And it's a trunk.
Yes.
And it's a lockable trunk.
Yes.
And some of the pictures in here show people using that lockable trunk
Yes.
to store, particularly they show a contractor.
Yes,
working out of-
absolutely. The guy's putting his tools in the trunk and using the back of the truck for something else.
He's using the trunk, using the truck as a source of electricity on the site.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is what these things can do.
Yep, this is from Clean Technica, and you have a title. What is it?
Ford increases F-150 Lightning production target from $80,000 to $150,000 a year.
Wow.
Are they going to stop there?
I don't think so. First, Ford's production target for the F-150 Lightning was 40,000, then 80,000. Now, Ford CEO Jim Farley tweeted that with strong customer demand for the F-150 Lightning, the target has been raised significantly once again, this time to 150,000 sales a year.
Well, Ford seems to be more and more aware that the future is electric. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
is. It
Oh,
is.
yeah.
And much of that seems to be coming from consumer demand.
Yes.
Okay? So how high will they go? This says, this says, what, how many? 150,000. They may go higher than that.
I think they will go higher than that.
Perhaps there's time to increase the target again. And by the way, the F-150 Lightning will be built in Michigan.
Good for them.
Yes.
Out of parts from
More parts from
Mexico, China, Japan.
There
Okay.
have been reports for months that the Mustang Mach-E was in such high demand and supply so limited that dealers were jacking up the price by $5,000, $10,000, even $15,000. It seems to be still happening. Okay, the bottom line is this. There's a lot of demand for the Ford Mustang Mach-E and not enough supply to meet that demand. So Ford is jacking it up significantly. And by 2023, it's going to be $200,000 a year.
Okay, we have an item from Clean Technica, and that, believe it or not, is a pumped storage facility.
Well, let's get
And
a picture
I've
of that
tried
up
to
there.
figure out what that picture is actually a picture of.
I tried to figure that out too. You can see there's a lake,
Yeah, there's
and it looks like a swimming pool,
yeah a big body
and it
of
looks
water.
on the side like solar panels.
It could be, but I just don't understand what's going on.
I don't.
Here.
I was having trouble looking at it. I mean, pump storage, they take water,
Yeah,
pump it uphill,
yeah.
and then later when they need power, they let it flow downhill,
Yeah.
generating power.
Now
we
let's-
got pump storage right here in,
Yes, we do.
what is it, 30 miles south of here?
It's not even that. It's the Northfield Mountain
At
Station.
Northfield, yeah.
And it's just at the
They're taking
south end.
Connecticut River water, pumping
That's
it up to a reservoir,
Yep.
and pumping it back down again. It's been working that way for years.
They built that to support Vermont Yankee.
Smart Yankee, yep.
Okay.
It sort of matches Yankees output.
Yeah. What do you have for a title?
Largest pump hydro facility in the world turns on in China.
The State Grid Corporation of China, the largest grid operator and power utility in China, has put the largest pump hydro facility in the world into commission. Now, this next sentence, I couldn't believe it when I read it, but I looked at it, and it seems to be that's what they're saying. It's hard to believe this is true. It is a 3.6 gigawatt,
Gigawatts is bigawatts, baby.
6,612 gigawatt hours
Right.
system in the Hebei province. It is the Fangning pumped storage power station. At 3.6 gigawatts, if this thing can produce power for 6,612 gigawatt hours, that means it can run putting out 3.6 gigawatts for 78 days solid.
Does seem a little far-fetched, doesn't it?
It seems far-fetched, but you never can tell. Maybe that's what they did.
Well, China plans to have 62 gigawatts of pumped hydro storage by 2025, and twice that by 2030.
Yeah.
Right now, it's at 30.3 gigawatts. Okay, the Fangning station will build in two 1.8 gigawatt phases. Each will consist of 12 reversible pump generating sets with a capacity of 300 megawatts each. I haven't done the math. Pump hydro storage provides low cost, low emission energy storage. Well,
Right.
that's true. That's definitely true.
That's right.
It's probably the lowest cost in the long run.
I find it impossible to believe that this is actually 6,612 gigawatt hours, though. I could believe that it was 6,612 megawatt hours, a
Okay.
thousandth of that.
Aha, I didn't go that far.
Well, anyway, our last item for the day, we
Now
have
we've
a
got a picture here.
picture of the port of Newcastle.
And let's get that picture up there. That's the port of Newcastle.
Absolutely
It is.
flat water, and those people have got surfboards. What are they going to do?
Yeah, those are surfboards. Sure they are.
Well, it may be that the harbor is sufficiently protected that the waves just don't get to it. And they have waves.
They're taking those surfboards to a different part of the harbor.
Yeah.
Because that does not look like it's a surfable surface.
No, it doesn't look like it. I don't know. Maybe those surfboards have masts, and you can tip the mast up and
Or maybe
put
they
a
got
sail
motors
on
on them.
Motors, yeah, maybe motors. This
The
is from
world's largest coal port to be 100% powered by renewable energy.
Wait a minute.
This is interesting.
This is from The Guardian. The world's largest coal port announced that it will now be powered 100% by renewable energy.
Huh?
Huh? They're using renewable energy to ship coal. That's not a big surprise. Its CEO also said, quote, "We get 84 cents per metric ton for coal shipped through our
I don't quite
port.
understand that.
We get 84 cents per ton. We get between $6 and $8 for any other product. You can see where I'd rather have my money." He's saying, we're going to go to renewables for shipping the coal, but we're hoping that the coal is going to go away because it's not making us money.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, the announcement came as coal power generation in Australia's national electricity market fell to its lowest level in the final 3 months of 2021.
Yeah.
Even Australia is starting to stop using coal.
Yeah.
The port exports an average of 165 tons of coal a year. Now, this port of Newcastle has signed a deal with Iberdrola, who we talked about on
Yes.
this show,
Yes.
for a retail power purchase agreement that provides the port with large-scale generation certificates linked to its wind farm.
There you go.
As part of its transition, the port has converted 97% of its vehicles to electric and engaged in other infrastructure projects to decarbonize its operations.
Right.
So they see what's going on. They see what the future brings. And by
Right.
the way, that's the end.
By the way, that's the end. So we can put up our final slide, which says, "Have a superbly felicitous week."
And we can wave goodbye.
And we can wave goodbye and ask everybody to come back next time. You hear?
You'll come back and hear us and see us now. You hear? Yep. Have a superbly felicitous week.